Hey there to my online family. Today I'm talking about grudges. Now, why on earth would I hold on to a grudge? Why do you hold on to grudges longer than you have to? I'm sure you can think of someone you know who it's been 2 or 5 or 10 years and they still will not stop talking about that thing that person did to them. And can you believe it? And who do they think they are? And the nerve of this person, and this is one of the stories that they repeat over and over and over again. Now, there are other of us who maybe feel like, oh, we're focused and attached to the idea that I'm good at forgiveness. Maybe you think, I'm great at forgiveness. We shake our heads and we look at these people who don't forgive and we think, why don't they just get over it? Why don't they forgive? That's what I'm here to talk about today. If this is your first time joining in, welcome. I'm Rachel Stravelli. I believe that lasting success and lasting happiness depend on our connection to the natural world and our connection to ourselves, our spiritual selves. I'm an inner wisdom teacher. I help people to connect to the wisdom within and the wisdom of the natural world. I plant seeds of hope in a chaotic, sometimes crazy world, and I use a blend of logic and intuition and scientific knowing and years of research and experience to inspire you and motivate you and work with you. If you would subscribe, the red button below, it'll show YouTube content like this should be featured and to share this content, and it'll also help you keep up to date with all the great videos that come out. This video is in a series of forgiveness videos, so I'll link to some of the rest of those if you want to check them out. Now, why does someone hold on to a grudge for 1 to 2 years, or sometimes 20 years? I think to myself, honestly, oh, I would have forgiven much more easily and much faster if I was in that situation. It's really easy to look from the outside and think, here's what I would do if I was them. But the truth of the matter is, what happens to us, that thing that pushes all our buttons in the worst way and makes us madder than Mad Hornet, that thing that just burns us up and really pushes our buttons, think about that thing for a minute. Because that thing that happens to us, when that thing happens to us, all of a sudden we've got so many justifications. Like I said, it's really easy to look at those other people and think, why are they still holding a grudge? But what about the grudges we're still holding on to? I got a lot of justifications for why I need to hold that grudge and why actually I'm not even holding on to a grudge. But how many of us have justifications for why that person deserves for me to be mad at them for a very long time? Like we turn it into a thing that's almost like a mission, like it's my purpose because what they did to me was beyond reproach. And my anger, that's the payback that they get for what they did. That's the payback they get for being them. And that's what we think payback is. But as they say, the payback, it's not for that person. Yeah, okay, they might feel some of the effects of it. But who feels it really? Who feels it the most? When I was getting all impassionate, it's me. I feel it. I'm the person who's consistently and constantly doing that emotional string of anger and sometimes even mild forms of hatred, even though I don't hate, but I'm the one ruminating in that, spreading that out. I'm doing it to a person. In all likelihood, if a person is someone who I've held on to a grudge and felt this way, it's probably one of the 5 to 10 top people I've most loved in my life. So if you think about it and you think about how I got to calm myself down, because like I said, me kind of getting into the moment and thinking of like this person who wronged me and I've got a grudge against them and they deserve for me to be mad at them. Like I literally can feel my blood pressure rising and my heart beating faster. And like my eyes are all like looking around like, where are they? What am I going to do? And And so this like mindset, this not even just mindset, but whole physical state that I'm in right now, that other person isn't feeling any of that. Are they here now? No. And yet, when you or I hold on to this grudge, when we keep on living with this feeling, we're the ones living with the effects of it. We're the ones living with the effects of the higher blood pressure, the racing pulse, the feeling of like hunted or haunted or desperation or anxiousness. The people who did these things, they're not feeling it. They're not getting it. They aren't the ones who have to live with our reactions to this. Now, okay, if you see this person on a regular basis, yes, they might have to deal with some of your anger. They might have to deal with some of your reactions. But ultimately, you are the one who has all of it happening to you, in your body, in your emotion, in your soul, all that. And like I said, it's really easy to look at other people and be like, oh, well, their grudge is unjustified, but mine is justified. There is a reason that I should be mad, and I should continue to be mad. But as you probably heard, and proverbs and platitudes for eons are all about how like none of this really hurts the other person. We are the only ones that it hurts. And no matter how justified we think it is, do we need the justification more than we need a quality of life? Years ago, I read this, actually it was an audiobook. So I listened to this audiobook that was all about happiness in marriage and maybe also how to avoid divorce. And I wasn't thinking about being divorced, but I like to just read all about things. And I want to have a happy marriage. So I was reading about it. And this book, I need to figure out what the title was because I don't even remember. It was almost 10 years ago. One of the things that struck me though, in the beginning of the book, the author, who I think was either a psychiatrist or a researcher or a therapist, they said in the studies that they had done, and they had quite a lot of research to back this up, every long-standing marriage, as in 20 years or more, every long-lasting marriage had at least 7 unforgivable, was the term they used, things that had happened in that marriage. And when I heard that, like, it still gives me chills because I remember thinking at the time, wait a minute, like this is statistically, that's the number they came up with, which means that some people had like 15, and okay, some people probably had like 2, but the average is 7. So if you're in a marriage for a long time, and even if you're not married, you can apply it to a long-standing friendship or other relationship. There are, so if this is going to be a long-standing thing of like 20 years that this relationship is going on, or 30 years or 50 years, you're going to have 7 unforgivable events that happen that you need to choose to forgive or move on from to stay together. What amazed me about this was I kind of felt like the things that happen in my marriage or the things that happen in my relationships with friends or other people are so unique to me, but it made me realize it's not that unique. And holding a grudge or getting stuck on how something is unforgivable really misses the point that things like this are going to happen. And I think it's also a way of thinking like, if you're with someone that long, something is going to happen that just burns you up, that just makes you so mad. And yet, one of the commitments to staying with someone or having an ongoing relationship with either romantically or friendship is you have to acknowledge that to stay together, you have to move past that. And for me, it was a sense of comfort or relief knowing, wait a minute, all these other people that I look around at, they have had instances where there were unforgivable moments. And the way they defined unforgivable was something that you could bring that instance to, you know, a random group of people, and say, would you forgive for this or would you not? And many people would be like, oh yeah, that was a terrible thing that person did. You would be justified in not forgiving them. So these are instances that your average person would say, sure, you could be justified for that. And yet, to stay together, you have to reach a point where you say, okay, that could be considered unforgivable, but I'm going to make the choice to forgive. Like, that's a justifiable thing that they did that we could judge as bad or terrible or hurtful to the relationship, but we're going to move past it. And I remember at the time listening to this audiobook, I was thinking, okay, we've already had two that I would consider in my relationship. And it was just funny to me because I think that if more people recognized that, and some people do, I think, in their long-standing relationships, either romantic or friendship, that being in a long-standing relationship involves you acknowledging the other person's humanness, acknowledging that there are probably going to come points where you feel justified for how you feel and what you think, and you probably even feel justified holding a grudge. But do you actually want to hold a grudge? Like, what matters to you more, the relationship or being right? You know, the relationship or holding on to this justifiable grudge? And you know, easily we could say there are times in your life when you're going to say, you know what, the relationship isn't worth that. And that's okay. I still think that it would be helpful for your own benefit if you're in a situation where the relationship ended because what they did to you was justifiably wrong or hurtful and also potentially unforgivable. I think at some point, if you can let go of whatever grudge you have and acknowledge, look, this grudge is the thing that pushed my buttons, but my well-being, my long-term health matters more than being angry with you, than having feelings about that. All right, if you are interested in delving into some other forgiveness practices, I have another video that'll be linked, and so you can delve into that, and feel free to comment below if you'd like to share with me your thoughts. Thank you for tuning in. Good luck with your personal journey and forgiveness if that's what you're working on. Bye.